I'm Shawn.
And I'm Ashley, and this is our van, Bernie. Well, our last name is Byrne, and we are very strong advocates for Bernie Sanders for president. So that's kind of where our inspiration drew from. I think we both knew we wanted something more simple when we were deciding on, doing van life. So we were looking for something very similar to like an E150, even like, the taller like Sprinter vans and everything, but we wanted to stick with something in a very low price range and do something that could have minimal work done on the inside and get better gas mileage. So we found this. It had some hail damage on it, and we decided to just pull the trigger and go ahead and purchase it.
It just helped us get it a little cheaper. He had two vans right next to each other. I can't remember the numbers, but one was almost twice the price, and one had a little hail damage, and we love the hail damage. So nice and easy.
In total, with the price of the van, probably about $5,000. Yeah, including with, all of our roof racks and, the Yakima awning and everything. Yeah, so we're pretty stoked that we kept it way under 10,000.
So this is our living area, I guess you could call it. We have all our clothes here. This is everything we have. This is Ashley's clothes on this side, my clothes on this side. So with getting our clothing down to this size, we went through and threw out tons and tons of clothes. Then we also wanted to go and find the best quality clothing that we could. So we didn't want to have to be replacing clothes 6 months in. So we actually spent a decent amount of money getting the right hiking pants and the right boots and things like that. But we're down, I have 4 shirts and 2 shorts and a pair of pants, things like that. So we really got it down to a very, very tight number. At the same time with laundry, it means that you got to wear some clothes a little longer, but we like it that way, and it wouldn't work if we had more. We've been going it started at about 10 days we would last. It's really about socks and underwear. We wear the shirts, we're hiking a lot every day, so the shirts are dirty, but it doesn't matter. And so when we run out of underwear and socks, things like that, we post up at a laundromat for the day. We try to time it out with a rainy day, hopefully. And we've, done laundry in Las Vegas. We've done laundry in Phoenix. We kind of do it all over the place. This bin here right next to it is our camping supplies. Also our laptop where we do any of our blog work and things like that. But otherwise it's real basic. It's just our tent case and some things for bugs, things like that. And then we have our cooler. So it's a 7-day cooler. We keep the dog bed on top because it helps Rufio. The dog can hop up from here to the bed without any help. So the first week he needed help up on the bed every single time. And with a little training, he now jumps up on here. So that's the reasoning for this. And here, this is a 7-day cooler. So we can, if we stock it up right, we can last a week out in the middle of nowhere as far as the cooler goes. We wanted the Yeti cooler at first. It's probably the best 7-day cooler you can get, but we found this for, again, like half the price, maybe even less than that. And we were pretty stoked in the moment, and we just took advantage of it. And it's lasted really well. It does exactly what it says. The ice is doing really well for us. And as you can see, we keep the dog food in there, we keep all our food, and it works quite fine for us. We got the cooler at Walmart. For water, we have 4 7-gallon blue jugs. We keep the 2 wedged in here. It's important when we're driving that things don't move around. So that is probably one of the challenges when it comes to big jugs and just anything. Everything has to be very held down. So the water stays pretty tight when they're full here. We have a 1/3 that we wedge into the side of the bed. And then the 4th is not here right now, but it stays right here, and with this bungee, it holds pretty good. And so with that, we have 28 gallons of water, and that's how we do our dishes, that's how we clean, that's what we drink, and that's all we have. It lasts us about 5 days. We do want to get it down a little bit. If we wanted to stay out for 10 days, the dishes and things like that would probably not be as clean. Right now we're scrubbing dishes like we would at the house, so I'm using soap and I'm getting everything clean. We might, just kind of real quick wash a plate. If we wanted to last 7, 8 days, if we had that chance. But right now, about 5 days with us living life like we like to, and it gets us through. Our goal with food is to not waste any. I've actually been doing really well with it. It sounds silly, but if Ashley can't finish her food, I eat it. And we try to cook smaller cans and things like that, so we're not cooking too much. So really, there has not been any food waste. I know that sounds ridiculous, but we're cooking small meals and eating all of it. With the trash from cooking after dishes, we use that bucket to put out the fire. So we're trying to reuse that. We have our bucket underneath, so we're catching all that, and we use that to put out the fire. And I would say from there, we keep our trash, we double bag it. So we put it in a grocery bag, and then so it doesn't stink up the van halfway through. I mean, this is just mostly paper trash and cardboard and things like that, anything we're not burning. And that we keep that in a trash bag, and we kind of dispose of that whenever we can. It kind of moves. If we are driving, the trash is back here. If we're back here, the trash stays up front. And then any chance we can, the trash sits outside. But you know, at nighttime, trash is up front and things like that. The curtains were kind of rigged early on, and we've been riding it out. They work pretty well, but they are not the fanciest curtains you ever saw. So we cut them so they fit nice and easy. This pulls here, and if I tuck this in here, nobody at Walmart can tell we're sleeping. So, and we have the same curtains in the back as well. We keep the fruit always rested here, and then in the back we keep a few odds and ends like our trash bags, a few of Rufio's toys. So when whittling down our clothes, we donated everything we could. We gave clothes to family. I remember shipping my favorite hockey jersey to my little brother. We really tried to just get everything we could out of the house, and then at the end, you know, the very last thing, we got rid of everything that we couldn't get rid of in the trash. So, and that was it. And then we bought as much good quality stuff, and it's really holding up really well.
Awesome. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of the bed and the inside and how it's all built. Starting with, you know, the van when we got it was a complete shell. So everything was this, you know, white metal. So the first thing was insulation, filling the cracks with crack filler, using the polyozo board, and then Reflectix on top of that. And then for the floor, we really did like a layer of insulation, we did a layer of Reflectix, and then a subfloor underneath. Just basic, like you can see it here, it's just basic subfloor. And I did that so I had something to nail everything into. A lot of times you see like on Instagram that everything is wood lined and really nice, but for gas mileage and just the weight for the van itself, we just chose to bypass all of that and be as bare bones as possible. And of course, from a financial aspect, you know, this is about as cheap as it gets. It does not get cheaper than this, and if it does, I would like to know how. So the Reflectix, I can't really say. I've used 3 different types of insulation, so I can't confidently say what is working. I would say that it certainly holds in heat for us, at nighttime especially. I left a few parts, you know, bare that you can see, but that's kind of just giving us time to see if we need an exhaust fan to be installed, and just kind of gives me a little bit more, you know, to work with. So I can't say if the Reflectix itself is doing a good job, but the combination of everything, I followed Reflectix rules with their air gap, which I think is really important when using it. So I'm sure it certainly is helping. We've stayed in 20-degree weather, and, you know, we're warm and weren't bundled up. So, you know, we were pretty happy with that. For the flooring itself, on top of the subfloor, I laid a primer down, and then Home Depot, which is where I got everything, had this flooring. It's like a linoleum stick tile on sale. So I just went ahead and got that. We needed about 2 boxes worth. So it ended up being like $35 to lay the whole floor down for the van. And I think it was definitely worth the money just from an aesthetic point of view. It's not, you know, it's not perfectly laid, but it certainly gives it a little bit more of a homier feel. So we were really happy with that. For the bed itself, the way that I did a little bit of research and tried to figure out what would be the most sound, like, and stable frame to build for a moving vehicle. And there wasn't tons of information, so I just kind of combined a few different styles that I found. In general, it has 2 side beams going down on lengthwise with it, and then it has support beams within it. So it kind of looks like a ladder on either side. And then on the floor, underneath I screwed in 2x4s onto the ground, and that just gives us different storage options and holds everything in place, so nothing's really like pushing forward. I'll probably end up putting one here because we have noticed that this stuff has been moving around, and you certainly don't want your pee bottle moving around. when you're driving. So that's definitely something we're gonna be doing here in the future. But as far as the bed top goes, it's just the subfloor. I didn't prime it, I didn't do anything. We just threw an old mattress we had in the basement on top and we called it a day. We did realize that it was moving, so I installed this, and it kind of helps just keep the bed in place. Also hinders the dog from being able to get up on the bed. So lesson learned on that part. As far as like doing research when wanting to build a bed, I kind of just thought about what a regular bed would look like. So there's slats underneath that support this. So what you need on top of I kind of started from the top and then worked my way down in my mind. So I knew I needed a platform for the mattress to lay on. And then I thought, okay, well then what's gonna hold this platform on it? That would be slats, just like any other traditional bed that you would see. So then what's gonna hold the slats up? It has to be some sort of, wood. I use 2x4, but if you find something reclaimed and cheaper, definitely go that route. But these are, I believe it's 6.5 foot long, this top portion here. And so this goes all the way across, and all of these slats are gonna be nailed into that. And then I just took 18-inch, I decided how tall I wanted the bed, because we need bins to be able to fit underneath, and then we need storage for on top of the bins, because as you can see, it's not a lot of space we're working with. It's about like 200 square feet of living space here. So we use a lot of the storage underneath the bed, like every square inch of it. So that's how we determined how tall we wanted the bed is, what do we want to put underneath the bed? So we did that. Every piece of wood was cut from Home Depot. I bought all the wood at Home Depot. They have a saw in the back. You give them your measurements and they cut every piece of wood. I'm not saying they're going to be really thrilled about cutting 40 different pieces of wood for you, but they will do it. And they did. And it was super helpful, because I didn't have a circular saw. I had like reciprocal saw from Walmart that was like 30 bucks and it was not doing the job. So yeah, I would definitely recommend having Home Depot cut your wood for you. Sorry, Home Depot. So that's also why we went with this width that we did. It would have been nice, of course, to have like a bigger bed or like a bigger platform, but you just kind of have to roll with what you got and be happy with it. We're, it's working. So
now we're at the back of the van with the underbed storage, with the things we use every day for food and cooking and things like that. First, we have our food bin. Most important is that we want to be able to get everything out of here fast. You're driving 4 hours, you stop at a rest stop. You don't want to have to take 10 minutes of pulling things out just to get to your food. So that was really important when we organize everything. So we keep our bread and our food right on top. This is everything dry storage that we have for food in the world, but it's also a lot of food, so we're very happy. We have all of our cooking stuff right next to it. So this bin here is our cooking bin. It has our pots and pans, silverware, propane, things for dishes. Anything you could think of is that we use every day ended up in this bin. Now from here you can see there is more. We have our first aid kit further back. It's kind of the middle layer. It's a little bit more difficult to get to, but also it takes an extra 30 seconds. So we have our first aid kit, our backpacks for hiking, and then if you needed to, you could also get to all of our books and games and things like that from the very back. All right, one last thing we keep back here is our Stargazer recliner. It's like the nicest thing we own. We set it up at every site. Ashley's Aunt Denise got it for us, and it really, it's comfortable as could be, and you can sit and watch the stars all night. So it's the only fancy thing that we have in this van, I would say. Here we also have our protein and veggies, and toilet paper and toiletries. So we have our toothbrush, toothpaste, all this. Just the idea was we wanted to be able to get to everything very quickly. Well, we have a shovel. There's lots of open space. So that's pretty much how it works. Sometimes there's chamber bathrooms, but we've gotten pretty used to just kind of digging a hole. We have some toilet paper, and if you dig 6 inches, 8 inches down, it's really no big deal. All right, so that's, before I get to the Coleman and the table and stuff, that's pretty much everything back here. I guess we have a couple backup cans of food for Rufio, but he doesn't really do the canned food anymore. And we have our table. and our Coleman stove. Yeah, the outlets came in handy for a few of the more specific items. We had a specific Coleman that we wanted. We wanted the most basic one, and we could not find it. And just like that, you're ready to cook. I like it a lot. It takes a little teamwork sometimes, depending on the meal. We'll do steak quesadillas, really anything. There's nothing you can't cook out here. We had barbecue chicken last night. But I would say with the teamwork outside, it becomes a little more important than, you know, cooking in the kitchen. But otherwise, it's really easy. We have a backup Primus for any time this is mostly for when we're hiking, but every once in a while we'll need that third stove, and just like that, we have that. So I would say with the combination, there's really nothing we have had any trouble with. And so we like it a lot.
So for the van, we are getting about 15 to 16 miles per gallon on the highway. If we're lucky and we're, you know, just cruising, not going up too many mountain passes. It's got 256,000 miles on it, just about. We've done 6,000 miles in the past 2 months, so she's certainly got some work. Last time we took her into the mechanic, they kind of checked her out, said everything was fine, and a few days later, our heater core died and was leaking antifreeze on the inside. So that was, you know, a $600 fix, but it is what it is. It's still cheaper than our rent would be if in an apartment, so we look at it that way, that, you know, you buy an older van, like this is a 2000 E150, you kind of have to expect that you're going to put some money and you're going to put some work into it. I call it love, but, you know, you call it whatever you want. So I kind of grew up in a small town and learned to parallel park in an extended F350, so this thing is pretty much a breeze to drive. It certainly drives like an old girl does, but I'm not too worried. You know, we go down a lot of bumpy roads, some things that are, you know, four-wheel drive required, and though we only have rear-wheel drive, she does really good. I've been thoroughly impressed and definitely have white-knuckled her a couple of times, but it's been really cool to see just how well an older van, you know, will work if you just put love and TLC into it. The guy we got her from really took care of her, so, you know, that goes a long way as well. As far as like being stealth, this thing is legit because we didn't paint her. And the reason is we didn't paint the van was A, for stealthness, and B, because the sunrise and sunset on the side of the van is like absolutely magical. And I don't want to rob myself of that joy every day. So that's been really cool to see, you know, twice a day, every day. But we can just pull up on any, you know, residential street and park. And as long as you're allowed to park there overnight, we haven't had any problems. So that's pretty cool. So with the van, I like to say that it has 0 bells and whistles. So it's all pretty basic. Our favorite part that we tend to video is this little guy here that we got from a cool nonprofit called Hope Tank in Denver. So he brings us a lot of good vibes. We think he's pretty cool. So when we first were doing setting the van up, we did actually purchase solar with the intent of putting it on. But the closer we got to you know, moving into the van, we kind of realized we didn't have much to plug in that we needed charged. So we use, you know, a basic phone adapter for the cigarette outlet. But then for our laptop, my father-in-law, Shawn's dad, actually bought us this guy and sent it to us. So it's just a power converter that you just plug straight into your adapter, and it's got 2, you know, plugs in there and the USB. So this has been working like really awesome for us, and that keeps our laptop charged, and we haven't, you know, ran into any dead batteries yet. So when we recently went to Pep Boys and got an oil change, they looked over everything, was like, oh yeah, everything is fine. We got to a gas station, filled up, which was, you know, an $80 fill up, and I turned the key and it's just dead. And I was like, no, you know, your instant reaction was to freak out. But I opened the hood and I could see some corrosion on the battery, so I bought some jumper cables and was literally on the side of the road just asking people like to jump the van for us, and this really cool fireman who was running late stopped and he helped us, and we were like super grateful for him. But lesson learned, always have jumper cables. Also, I ran over, you know, a nail in Needles, California, and my spare tire was flat. So, you know, make sure your spare tire is flat too. These are all lessons that you learn on the road and lessons I wouldn't want to learn anywhere else. So looking at the exterior of the van, you can see that we do have a bit of a setup here on the roof. We have 4 Yakima gutter towers that just, you know, essentially screw right on in. We got those second hand at an off-road store in Denver, so I highly suggest, you know, checking that out. That saved us over 50% on the racks themselves, and they can be pretty pricey. Up top and attached to it, you'll see right here we have our Yakima awning. Super clutch in the desert to have, you know, shade on demand. So that's come in really handy. It's become pretty good setup for us.
It also has held up well in the weather. So we've had some rainstorms where it's kind of given us so we're not feeling as cramped, and it doesn't pool up too much on top. So it's really come in handy.
Yeah. And then behind that, you'll see we have the Thule roof skybox there. We use that for all of our expensive gear that it's locked. We feel super secure with it. All of our climbing gear is in there, our camping gear, sleeping bags. On the off season, we'll keep like our hiking packs up there. So we feel like super secure having that. We're really happy to have that. Also in there is like a backup gas tank for, you know, times when we're spending a little bit off grid. So it's super nice to have that extra storage up there.
So we actually hit the road a little sooner than we were prepared for, and for the first maybe 10 days, the spare tire that you see on the roof was in different places inside the van. We didn't have the cage. We could not find the right cage for it when we had to leave, and so we said we'll figure it out. I think we mainly kept it behind the cooler, and it was not perfect. It made everything feel much more cramped. And then I think right outside of Sedona, we finally found the right place that had the cage that we were looking for the right price. And we set it up, maybe, I think it was in a campsite outside of town. And ever since that day, we've had much more space. So the spare tire is obviously very important. As she said, we've already had a flat, but not having a place to keep it was a real struggle at first. So the cage has really come in handy.
When we got ready to leave, we had bought the racks, but we were waiting to find like a good roof rack on sale because again, they're pretty pricey. Walmart, you know, again, had a couple, but none of them were in store, so it was nothing that we could go purchase and just like get it out of the way. So when we put it up there, it instantly alleviated so much stress, especially on the inside, and just like cleanliness, not having like a dirty spare tire. It originally is supposed to go suspended underneath the van, but you know, we made that sacrifice when I built the bed platform that we weren't going to have access to that, so it's just not an option. So we always planned on putting it up top, and we have enough room up there where we can put the gas tank, secure that on there, and then as well as firewood. So it's big enough for us to keep stuff out of the van that doesn't necessarily need to be in there.
Thanks for watching.
And if you want to keep up with us, follow us on Instagram at The Burns, or check out our blog at theburns.com. Everything will be linked below, so check it out.